We all know the famous movie, it's Smokey and the Bandit, featuring Burt Reynolds, Sally Field, the Snowman, and a funny sheriff named Buford T. Justice. Of course, the movie featured a black 77 Trans Am and a really cool 18-wheeler with a cowboy motif on a trailer. But what you probably didn't know is that it featured one of the coolest 1970s Ford trucks ever built. Stay tuned for this episode of Dentside Depot as we take a look at all the 1970s Ford trucks found in the film, including the infamous FOXX HUNT Ford. Throughout the entire film, many 1973 through 1979 Ford trucks show up, more than you would even think. The first one that shows up is at 4731. It is a white 1973 dually commercial truck. You can see here that Sheriff Buford T. Justice has already lost the top to his cop car, and you can see the white dually in the background. A few clips later in the background, you can see we have another mid-1970s Ford truck, a red F-150. Now, the interesting thing is, this truck would be seen throughout the entire film, and I would also suspect that it may have been used as a part of the production because it's shown multiple times. We can see the truck later on right here. We can see the truck towards the end of the movie right here, and it shows up in a couple other instances as well. Next up, we have a white mid-70s short bed F-150. You can see it here in this scene at 10941. It is painted white and it has red letters on the tailgate. At marker 11018 into the movie, you can see a brown two-tone 1976 or 1975 Ford truck passing by as a cop is giving Buford T. Justice a hard time about him having no top on his cop car. At marker 126, we get one of the first really cool 1970s Ford trucks that show up throughout the film. It's a 1976 dealer-added bicentennial truck. Now, in 1976, Ford offered a factory bicentennial truck that had eagle gold stripes going down the side, but it was also very common for dealers to add stripes to the side of the 1976 trucks that were painted blue in order to give them their own special flair. You can see that right here as the bottom had white stripes going along it, and in the back it would go also along across the bed. At marker 127, we can briefly see a green F-150 in the background that appears to have a roll bar mounted on it. In this scene, all of the trucks are blocking the cops from trying to chase after Burt Reynolds. At marker 130:31, towards the end of the movie, as the Bandit has successfully delivered the cores to the racetrack, it is the only scene where a Trans Am and a Dentside Ford truck show up together, and you probably missed it and never even saw it. You can see here in the background what appears to be a late 1970s Ford truck, probably a 76 or a 77 F-150. Let's zoom in a little bit closer. You can see right here it is a short bed truck. It appears to be four-wheel drive, so it's most likely an F-150 4x4. It looks like it's been modified with some yellow two-tone accents, and it probably has some mag wheels, probably the second or third coolest truck that appears in Smokey and the Bandit. And that brings us to the last truck, which is really the highlight of this film. At 125, we first see the FOXX HUNT truck appear for the first time. Hot Pants Sally is speaking to Burt Reynolds, and they are getting ready to start the blockade of all the police officers chasing after the Bandit. You can see the FOXX HUNT truck over here on the side. A couple clips later, we get a much better look at the truck. You can see right here, it has gold lettering that says FOXX HUNT on the hood. You can see it is tricolored with brown, orange, and a darker brown on it, with the tricolor stripe going down the side. At the top, it appears to have factory cab lights. And then it has aftermarket lights on the roll bar, and the roll bar also appears to be aftermarket as well. A few clips later, we get to see the FOXX HUNT from the front for the first time, and you can see it has an aftermarket winch bumper on the front, and then it also has an aftermarket winch mounted on the winch bumper. We get our first really good shot of the roll bar. You can see it's a double roll bar, but it would not be a factory roll bar, and that would obviously hold the roll bar lights on top. A couple clips after that, we can start seeing all the trucks pulling out of the parking lot to go ahead and start the blockade. FOXX HUNT is the premier truck in this scene, and you can now see the entire truck for the first time. You can see the paint job is definitely really vintage and really cool. If you notice and look closely in the background, you can also see the dealer-added bicentennial truck, and then again, the red F-150 that we talked about earlier also appears in this scene. If you look closely, once the blockade starts, the FOXX HUNT truck appears again. This would be the final time that the truck would appear in the film and the only time that we would see it from the back. You could see it had what appears to be a factory trailering bumper on it, but it's tough to tell. It has the Ford applique on the tailgate and what appears to also be aftermarket lights on the tailgate. You can see in this picture really well it has aftermarket turbine wheels. Probably a 16.5-inch wheel, and they've been painted orange on the inside, which was definitely a really cool look. You also get a really nice look here of the custom paint job that was put down the side of the FOXX HUNT truck. We can also notice here in this scene that it has an aftermarket CB radio antenna, which clearly would be very important, especially given this particular movie. Here is a great modern looking picture of the FOXX HUNT truck, and it really shows you the beauty of how this truck was done up. This was very common in this time period for trucks to be in this particular paint scheme, to have turbine wheels, a roll bar, a CB radio antenna, big lights on top of the roll bar, a Warn style bumper, and a Warn winch in the front. The FOXX HUNT truck is definitely one of the coolest looking Dentsides of all time, and you probably didn't even know that it was in the movie Smokey and the Bandit. Of course, Smokey and the Bandit was one of the best movies of all time, but now you know it also featured some really cool 1970s Ford trucks when they were still brand new. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dentside Depot. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.